Hey everybody, today is January 25th. I'm Mr. Sheridan. This is Earth Science. I hope you're all having a great day. I hope you had a great weekend. We are going to touch base. First of all, for those of you who are not in class, couple reminders. Number one, we are now taking attendance in Power School, which means that if you are not in class, it is getting recorded and you are going to get a phone call home. There is no reason for you not to be in class every single day at 11:50. So please make sure that you're on time, that you're in class, or else you're going to start getting phone calls home. Now, the second thing we need to talk about is advisory. This Wednesday, we have advisory in the morning. You need to be here just before 8 o'clock so that you can be in your seat ready to go in advisory at 8 o'clock in the morning. Every single student is going to be released at 11:30. You can grab a lunch on your way out. Those are free still. And then you need to go home. There is no afternoon classes. There is no meeting with teachers. Even if you have an NS, you need to go home. So make sure that your parents understand that if you're getting a ride. Make sure that they understand that if you're riding the bus home. Everybody is leaving at 11:50. All the teachers have professional development, so nobody's going to be here to have a class or help you or anything or watch you. So you're not allowed to be here. You got to leave at 11:30 on Wednesday. Outside of that, today I am assigning our next summative project. Very excited about this one. It should be super fun. I'm going to remind everyone again, in the last two summative projects that we've done, we've really struggled with a lot of students not turning them in on time, saying that they don't have enough time to get them done. The reason that you don't have enough time to get them done is because you're not using your class time wisely. When you're in class, you need to be working on this stuff every single day. I'm giving you enough time that if you work on it a little bit every day, you'll have it done. But if you save it until the last day when it's actually due, you are going to struggle. You're not going to get a good grade, and then you're going to get frustrated and frazzled and feel overwhelmed like many of you have, which is why we need to work on it a little bit every single day. So here's what we're going to do. In your Google Classrooms, which is where all of our assignments are, under week 22, we have what's called our Human Activities Summative. And I'm going to roll through a quick presentation on how this is going to work, what the assignment is, and what you are expected to do. So if you have questions during this presentation, for those of you who are in class, please throw those, jot them down quick, throw them in the chat. Make sure that you remember them somehow. When we're finished, I will answer those as best I can. So we are going to focus on three different things. This particular learning target deals with, and I'm literally going to read it off of the actual learning target. It says, construct an explanation based on evidence for how the availability of natural resources, the occurrence of natural hazards, and changes in climate have influenced human activity. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to create a Google Slides presentation. Yes, we're doing that again. Yes, you need to use all the design layout things that we've talked about over the last few weeks and implement all of those things. We're trying to grow and get better at this thing, so we're practicing. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to create a fictional civilization. For those of you who like to read nonfiction, for those of you who like science fiction movies, for those of you who like any sort of movies that deal with alternate realities that are not based in exactly the way that things are right now, this should be fun for you. So I want you to use your beautiful brains, use your imagination. I want you to think outside the box. I want you to think of something that you're passionate about, that you'll get excited about. I want you to create a civilization of people that live somewhere, and I don't care where. So if you are a Hunger Games fan, they created the new world. It had similarities to Earth as it is, but there's different climates and different natural resources and different things that they do in each section of that. If you're familiar with those books or movies, if you've watched the movie with Matt Damon where he goes to Mars. I don't care if you do it on Mars. I don't care if you create another planet. I don't care if you create an alternate reality where things aren't all exactly the same. I want you to be creative. I want you to come up with something new. But there are a few things that I need you to detail, okay? So the first thing is that you need to be creative. Do something that's fun. Do something that's outside of the box. Use, something that you're passionate about. If you like to swim, make it tropical. If you like to read, it could be I'm thinking of, like a Vulcan type planet where it's all logic and, super intelligence and that sort of thing. I don't care. So I want you to think outside the box and think of all kinds of new things. But I want you to be specific, and I want you to land on one thing. You're going to describe that civilization. You need to do this in a Google Slides presentation. You need to describe this civilization's population size, what their climate is, what their natural resources that are available to them are, and their food sources. So we're thinking about creating this alternate reality, and you need to describe lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of details about this place, whatever it is, whether they're human type people, whether they're, if you want to make, a planet of Chewbacca's, I don't care. But I want this population to be able to be affected by things around them, because that's what happens. We're affected by lots of things. I want you to tell me how the climate in your particular case, wherever this group of people or animals or whatever it is, where they live, how does the climate affect them? What things in the climate, how does it affect the clothing they wear? How does it affect what they eat? How does it affect where they live? How does it affect their buildings or their shelter? How does it affect all of those things? I want you to tell me how the climate affects those things. I also want you to tell me how natural hazards affect this population. So in our last unit, we spent a lot of time talking about how different types of energy cause changes in climate on the surface of the earth. I want you to correlate that with your new civilization. What sorts of natural hazards could happen that could affect the population that you're describing in this particular case? I mean, I just put a few example pictures up here, but, could there be droughts or locusts or, do they deal with hurricanes? Is this a place in Guatemala or Japan that's in the Ring of Fire where they're dealing with earthquakes and volcanoes? Is it someplace, up high in the Himalayas where they're dealing with landslides and all kinds of, other hazards and issues that they have. So wherever you live, you're going to deal with some natural hazards. I'd like to hear about them in your particular in your particular scenario. Then the third effect. So we've talked about how the climate affects the population. We've talked about how natural hazards affect the population. I also want to know, how do natural resources affect the population? Are natural resources super abundant? You have almost everything that you need. If you live in, Appalachia, if you live in, East Tennessee in the mountains in there, you got all kinds of wood, you got all kinds of coal, you got all kinds of animals running around that you can eat. I mean, you've got lots of natural resources available to you. If your fictitious civilization lives on a deserted island, there's going to be a whole lot less natural resources, and you're going to need to deal with how that population functions based on the scarcity of their natural resources. So we need to talk about how they affect the natural resources affect your population. So all that's going to be super fun. We're going to talk about how we're just creating this fictitious population, okay? We're describing where it is. We're describing the natural resources, what they eat, where they live, how the hazards affect them. We've done all that stuff. Here's where you're going to have to do some research. This, if anything, is going to be the tricky part, because you are dealing with a fictitious place that you made up. However, what I want you to do is, for each one of these effects on the population, natural resources, natural hazards, and climate, I want you to correlate that effect on the population with something that's actually happened in the history of humans on Earth. So for instance, if you are describing a civilization that's on Mars, well, we've never had a civilization on Mars. So how am I going to do that, Mr. Sheridan? Well, I agree. We've never had a civilization on Mars, but we have had civilizations that have dealt with a lack of natural resources, that have dealt with a lack of water, that have dealt with a lack of fertile soil, that have dealt with a lot of these things. And I want you to make that correlation. Tell me about how your population is similar to another population that has dealt with some issues similar to that on Earth. So whether we're going back to whether you're, in a sailing population that's dealing with, moving from island to island or on the open ocean. I mean, if you wanted to create, you all are too young to have seen Waterworld, I'm sure. But if the whole world floods and we're dealing with a population that is strictly, floating on the ocean, then you're going to deal with issues that are unlike somebody who's in a in a place like the desert. But what I want you to do is correlate one of these effects. So you're going to come up with 3 of these. How your civilization deals with effects from climate, from natural hazards and natural resources. I want you to think back in research and go into and use the internet. You're going to use the internet here to research how those things have affected humans in the past on Earth, and how they would affect the population in your fictional scenario for this summative. So we're making a correlation. You're telling me how they're similar and how they're different to that experience that humans had at some point in history. So if you find a population that has experienced all of the same things, if you decide that the fictional population that you're going to focus on is very similar to maybe ancient Hawaiians, the Polynesian people that eventually got to Hawaii, you could use those examples of the Polynesian people expanding from island to island. And that could cover all 3 of these things: how they dealt with the lack of natural resources, how they dealt with natural hazards, and how the climate affected that population. You can use the same ancient group, but I want you to be very specific about how each one of those things, affected that population. Or if you choose, you can use 3 different groups of people. So we're going to have to look back and correlate your fictitious civilization with a population from the history of humans on Earth. Okay, so I want you to be creative. I want you to have fun. I also want you to make these presentations crappy. And for those of you who missed the presentation from last Tuesday, you need to go back and watch that instructional video, because we need to talk about how you need to make your slides interesting. Lots of images, lots of examples of how you can do things. When you open up Google Slides and create a brand new Google Slides presentation, there's lots and lots of different ones that have a few different ways to insert new images. We may do some instructional talks as we go through this week on how some of those new and do some things with the iPad, because the iPad is very different from a PC as far as what types of presentations you can make. So we'll do some instruction on that as we go through the week. There will also be formative assessments that are going on during the week. Tomorrow, I want to know what type of civilization that you're coming up with. So take today. Today's your brainstorming day. Today's your creativity day. Today's your throwing stuff on the wall and see if it sticks. And you're kind of going back through this presentation. You all have a copy of this to make sure that you can fulfill all of these things about your civilization. Today's the day you pick that. Tomorrow, you're going to have to answer what type of civilization you are picking. And then as we move through the week, you'll have plenty of opportunity and lots of class time to be able to complete this assignment. But you actually have to do it during class, or else you're going to get behind. So I'm begging you, please, please, please use the class time. This will be a fun assignment if you take the time and actually do it during the day. So I hope that was clear. Please let me know if you have any questions at all, and I'm happy to help, and we will go from there. So I will see you all back here in class tomorrow. Have a great day.